to Unews. I'm Andrea Linares. Following this weekend's attacks, we have special team coverage of the two mass shootings that have shaken people here in the U.S. and around the world. We begin with Lorraine Cáceres, who is standing by in Dayton, Ohio, the scene of Saturday night's mass shooting. Lorraine, what's the very latest you have for us?
Andrea, very somber mood here in Dayton, Ohio. Just for our viewers to have an idea, this town, this city is right between Columbus and Cincinnati, and this street where everything happened, this tragedy took place, is basically the heart of the town. Restaurants, bars, and a lot of police presence, precisely because it's a family area that a lot of people visit during the weekend, and that's precisely why they were able to stop this shooter within seconds, even preventing him to go inside the bar. Police have said that there's 11 people still in the hospital, and autopsies are already underway as they're trying to figure out a motive, or saying that this was definitely not a hate crime, but it's going to take them days, even weeks, to figure out, process all the evidence, and come up with a motive, which is what everybody needs in order to process what had happened and move on and find some possible solutions. They've said that they don't see anything in the shooter's past that could have indicated that he was capable of doing something like this, but two people that knew him back in high school when he was 17 years old said he was suspended from school because he had a hit list and also a list of women that he wanted to rape. Police have not confirmed that information, and neither has the school district. Andrea, that's all the information we have right now from Dayton. I'll send it back to you.
And we also know, Lorraine, that authorities are saying that the weapon used in the shooting was ordered online from Texas and later transferred to that suspect at a local firearms dealer near Dayton, Ohio. That was Lorraine Cáceres reporting. And now moving on to Saturday's second deadly mass shooting. One man is actually in custody in El Paso, Texas, after opening fire at a Walmart. That massacre leaving at least 22 people dead and over 24 injured. Authorities believe that the shooter was motivated by a hatred of immigrants. Maite Interiano has more on the tragic events. Now let's go to El Paso, Texas. Aranza Loizaga is standing by with the very latest on this investigation. Aranza, what do you have for us?
Yes, and unfortunately, authorities here in El Paso are confirming that 21 people have died. The latest victim passed away this morning early at a local hospital. But the most important message that the people from El Paso want to portray to the nation is that they're together, that they're resilient and that El Paso is strong. As we can tell, there's people gathered here together to pray for all of the fatal victims and, of course, all the people that are injured and recovering in local hospitals. We are just across the Walmart where this horrible attack took place this last Saturday, killing at this point already 21 people and injuring more than a dozen, or actually 24 people. But something very important that we also want to demonstrate is that this is an improvised shrine that has been growing since Saturday night, with all the vigils and all of the members of this community who are here supporting all of the people that were impacted by this horrible situation. As you can tell, we have candles and messages, also passages from the Bible. As one, we can overcome. El Paso strong, together as one, and also this fatal date that they will never forget, August the 3rd. And so also we understand that the FBI is still here at the site trying to gather more information, evidence, to be able to prosecute this person, the shooter, who is facing capital murder charges here in Texas, and also domestic terrorism charges from the federal government, the investigation of the FBI. The cars are still parked because this is an active scene, and of course, we're going to be talking to one of the victims later today. The message again here is El Paso is strong. They are a very resilient community, and they're ready to start healing. Back to you, to the studios.
Thank you, Aranza. So sad to witness all this. And authorities are now updating the death toll, specifically in El Paso, Texas. At least 22 people have now died. President Trump spoke from the White House earlier today in the wake of the shootings. He condemned white supremacy and called for national unity, but stopped short of supporting gun control legislation. Luis Mejib is at the White House with the latest on the president's reaction. Luis. People were killed in the mass shootings in El Paso, Texas, and Dayton, Ohio in total this weekend. As the country comes together and demands stricter gun laws, members of the community mourn the lives lost. They all rest in peace, and our hearts go out to all the families affected and to our whole nation, which is mourning at this time. In the 217 days of this year alone, there have been 255 reported and verified mass shootings in our country, and that's an average of nearly 1.2 shootings per day just this year. Hopefully, we will soon see some changes. And after this short... Welcome back to Unews. A controversial message board is offline after it was linked to Saturday's mass shooting in El Paso. Internet infrastructure company Cloudflare announced its full support for the 8chan website after reports linked that message board to the deadly shooting at a Walmart there. The suspected gunman allegedly used 8chan to share a hate-filled manifesto minutes before killing at least 22 people. This is actually not the first mass shooting tied to this website. 8chan has also been linked to suspects in the synagogue shooting in Poway, California, and the shootings at 2 mosques in New Zealand. And cities across the country are increasing security after this weekend's shootings. Peggy Carranza is in New York City with the latest and also has some potentially life-saving advice from security experts.
Authorities ask people not to be alarmed if they see extra police presence. So far, there is not a specific threat to the city. In New York, Peggy Carranza, Unews.
Peggy, thank you for that report. Meanwhile, the head of the FBI, Chris Wray, has ordered a nationwide search for mass shooting threats. Sources say Wray and terrorism cases investigated by the FBI are motivated by white supremacy, and that's what FBI Director Chris Wray told Congress just a month ago. It's a theme that has greater relevance today since the attack at El Paso, Texas was motivated by a hatred of immigrants. Sharon Nazarian is with the Anti-Defamation is still reeling from the weekend's mass shootings. Immigrant rights groups are speaking out and placing the blame for these tragedies with the country's commander-in-chief. Juan Carlos Gonzalez has more. Meanwhile, Mexico's foreign minister says the country plans to take legal action against whoever sold the gun to the suspected El Paso shooter. Marcelo Ebrard said Sunday that Mexico will do developments in the case of 2 Americans. Welcome back to Unews. Police in Washington state say 2 women took them on a wild chase Saturday. That chase ending after police shot one of the suspects several times. Police in the killing of an Italian police officer in Rome. 2 U.S. teenagers accused of that murder face the possibility of never coming back home. Rafael Rodriguez has the story. The Colombian baseball team traveled to New York with hopes of playing in a tournament that could help the players land scholarships to study in the U.S. But the group claims they were lied to by the organizer of that event, who left them stranded upon their arrival. Nayeli Chavez-Keller brings us this story.
A police report, authorities responded that this is not a criminal case and that it must be handled in a civil court. The Colombian consulate is guiding the baseball team in this process. In New York, Nayeli Chavez-Keller, Unews.
When we come back, Iran making new moves in the place returns. We have an important sporting goods recall. And welcome back to Unews. We have an important product alert to tell you about. The U.S. Consumer Product and Safety Commission has issued a recall for the Super Jumper 14-foot trampoline. It's Maite Imperiano. She's standing by with a preview of the next hour of Unews. Maite, what do you have for us?
Thank you, Andrea. And as the nation mourns those killed over the weekend in 2 separate mass shootings, the family of Kayla Salazar, a teenager who died at the recent food festival shooting in California, is now celebrating her memory on a birthday young Kayla would never get to see. We have her family words. Also in Florida, 3 separate shark attacks reported in the same area. We'll tell you where these incidents occur, along with an update on the conditions of those victims. And the potential dangers of vaping. We'll have an update on 11 people who were sent to the hospital allegedly after using e-cigarettes. That story and so much more coming up in just minutes. Andrea, back to you.
The dangers continue. Thanks so much, Maite, for that update, and we'll be waiting for you. Welcome back to Unews. If you ask anyone in the Lake Travis, Texas community, they would describe the Irwin house as a frat house. 5 boys and 3 of them are triplets. But as Mariti Marungi explains, they share so much more, an indescribable bond with an inspiring story. Really great. Very neat to see siblings sticking together through it all. And it's also great to end on a positive note in the midst of so many devastating stories, so many tragedies in our country during this past weekend as we continue mourning those lives lost in El Paso, Texas and Dayton, Ohio. That's all the time that we have for the first hour of U News, but stay tuned for the next hour. We have much more information coming up next. I'm Andrea Linares, and Mikey Interiano is coming up next for Hour 2.